Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the time and where you're watching from. Welcome once again to our chemistry class, a continuation of solution to 2025 past question. WAEC past question. This is our day 9. This day 9, which happens to be the last day, we're starting from question 47 down to question 50. On question 47, a few drops of sodium hydroxide is added to an aqueous solution. A green precipitate is formed. The ion that may be present in the solution is dash. For you to answer this question correctly, you must have a good knowledge of practical chemistry, as long as O level is concerned. And practical chemistry, for the purpose of understanding and clarity, is partitioned into two. We have quantitative analysis, which we employ two methods in determining the volume and the mass. We have gravimetric analysis, that is a method employed in determining the mass of samples. It's called gravimetric analysis. But the method employed in measuring the volumes of samples, either the acid or the base, is known as volumetric analysis. Yes, gravimetric analysis happens to be the most accurate method in determining the quantities of samples, precisely because maybe the apparatus used for gravimetric analysis is not readily available, especially in Nigerian laboratories, where they resort to using volumetric analysis, which requires simple apparatus like the pipette, the burette, conical flasks, and the rest, like rectal stand, tripod stand, and rest. Okay. Now, the second aspect of practical chemistry is called qualitative analysis, otherwise known as salt analysis. In salt analysis, there are four things you are out to do. Number one is identification of cations. Identification of cations, which is the positively charged ions. Identification of anions. Identification of anions, which is the negatively charged ions. Identification of gases. Identification of gases, and finally we have flame tests. These are the four things you are expected to do as long as qualitative analysis in practical chemistry is concerned. In this identification of ions, of course, the major reagent used for identification of cations is dilute sodium hydroxide. Dilute sodium hydroxide, you must always put dilute sodium hydroxide and NH3. After that is aqueous ammonia. Aqueous ammonia. Then for identification of anions, of course, barium chloride solution is used. AgNO3, that is silver nitrate, which goes together with our dilute ACl also, and dilute ACl and NH3. This can also do with ammonium hydroxide. Apart from aqueous ammonia, ammonium hydroxide can also go. Now, in any salt that contains copper-2 ion will always show light blue gelatinous PPT. Light blue gelatinous PPT in drops of sodium hydroxide, which is insoluble in excess of sodium hydroxide. It will also show light blue gelatinous PPT drops of aqueous ammonia, but the precipitate dissolves completely in excess of what? Aqueous ammonia. And any salt that contains ion 2 will show dirty green gelatinous PPT. Dirty green gelatinous PPT, which is always insoluble in excess of sodium hydroxide and aqueous ammonia. And any salt that contains ion 3 will always show reddish brown gelatinous PPT. Reddish brown gelatinous PPT. Both is also insoluble in excess sodium hydroxide and excess of what? Aqueous ammonia. Then any salt that contains ammonium ion, NH3 is ammonia, NH4 plus is ammonium ion. Ammonium ion forms white dense film with HCl, fuse with HCl. So the question says, a few drops of sodium hydroxide is added to an aqueous solution, a green precipitate is formed. The ion that may be present in the solution, of course, from here is dirty green. So the green precipitate is ion 2 ion. Because ion is a transition metal, it can exist as what? Ion 2 and ion 3. Question 48. When C2H4 molecule is polymerized, the polymer formed is dash. The first is, what is this compound? The compound C2H4 is a hydrocarbon. I've said any compound that contains hydrogen and carbon only is a hydrocarbon, or carbon and hydrogen only is a hydrocarbon. There are two series of hydrocarbon. Of course, we have alkane series, A-N-E. Alkene series, E-N-E, that N in E-N-E, and alkyne series, that N in Y-N-E, alkyne series. The general formula for alkene series, of course, is CnH2n plus 2. And the first member starts when n is greater than or equal to what? 1. So first member starts with 1. The general formula of alkene is CnH2n, which stands when n is greater than or equal to 2. And the general formula of alkyne is CnH2n minus 2, which stands when n is greater than or equal to 2. Alkane is characterized by single bonds. So there is always a single bond between these carbon to carbon atoms per molecule. But alkene contains double bond between these carbon to carbon atoms per molecule. And alkyne has triple bond. The functional group is triple bond. Now, to know the compound, the Fab series, this compound C2H4 belongs, of course, if you bring 2 here, this is C2, 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 will give us 6, but we have H4 here, there is none. So bring 2 here, that is C2, and 2 times 2 is what? 4. If you bring the C2, 2 times 2 is 4 minus 2 will give you C2. So here we have C2H6. We have C2H4. Here you have C2H2. So this is an ethane. Et means 2. Met is 1 carbon atom. Any hydrocarbon with 1 carbon atom is met. Et is 2 carbon atoms. Pro is 3 carbon atoms. But 4, paint 5, hex 6, hex 7, 8 is ox. Nona is 9, deca 10, and deca, dodeca, and rest of them. Okay. Which means that this compound, of course, this is ethane. Then C2 This one, C to H word, meaning at in. It must end in the words. Ending of the family name, which is E and T, at in. This one is at ein. So the compound of interest is at in. It belongs to E. Only this is alkanes. All the members of alkanes are what? Saturated hydrocarbon. Alkene, which is double bond and triple bond, and alkyne, they are what? Unsaturated hydrocarbon. Of course, the degree of what? Unsaturation increases down the route from alkane to alkene towards alkyne. So the most unsaturated hydrocarbon is alkyne, and moderately unsaturated and highly saturated is alkene. And since the degree of saturation, of course, is increasing down the route, of course, stability is also decreasing down the route, which means that the most stable hydrocarbon is alkane. The most reactivity also increases down the route from alkane to alkyne. So the most reactive hydrocarbon is alkyne, moderately reactive and least reactive. But the most stable is alkane. The least stable is alkyne. So since the compound of interest is 13, only alkene families and alkyne families can polymerize. Alkane can only undergo combustion reaction, can also undergo, because it's highly saturated, they undergo substitution reaction. This one undergo, of course, addition reaction, the two, polymerization reaction, and mostly also combustion. In polymerization is a process whereby two or more monomers are linked together to form a polymer, a large molecular compound known as polymer. There are two types of polymerization. We have addition polymerization and condensation polymerization. Of course, the type now undergone by this again is what's called addition polymerization, which is otherwise known as chain polymerization. You say two or more monomers, of course. When this ethene, one of these is called a monomer. Ethene is a monomer. If two of them are linked together to form a compound, it's called a dimer. Then three of it are from three and above, of course, polygon. Three and above is we form what? A polymer. And the kind of polymer we form is what? Polyethene. The same ethene will be there, but because there are more than what? Two atoms of ethene or molecules of ethene that combine together, that link together to form a large molecular compound known as polymer. It's known as polyethene. So the correct option is B, polyethene. Question 49. When a hypothesis is proven within the limit of available evidence, it becomes dash. In scientific methods of discoveries or analysis, of course, we have after observation, this observation, of course, the science process gives now directly what you see is hypothesis. After hypothesis, to test your hypothesis, that is experimentation. If the result of your experiment is positive, that is positive result, now you can take further experiment. If it becomes positive, then we jump into conclusion. That conclusion is a statement that confirms the hypothesis after being tested within the limit of available evidence. If the hypothesis has been what? Tested and proving correct within the limit of available evidence, it becomes a theory. But if the hypothesis has been extensively tested and proven true without any exception, it becomes a scientific law. So a statement that confirms the hypothesis after being tested and proven correct within the limit of available evidence is theory. But a statement that confirms the hypothesis after extensively tested and proven true without any exception is scientific law. So the correct option here is theory. Since it's still within the limit of available evidence, there is no extensive test yet. Question 50. Empirical formula is the simplex formula of a compound, the molecular formula of a compound, the chemical formula of a compound, the structural formula of a compound. Of course, the correct option is the simplest formula of a compound. We have two formulas, empirical formula and molecular formula. Empirical formula and molecular formula. Let me use these compounds like Na2CO3. Na2CO3. This is the aliphatic name of this compound is sodium trioxide carbonyl 4. Then if I ask you how many elements is present in this compound, we have sodium, we have carbon, and we have oxygen. So there are 3 elements in this compound. But how many atoms? Sodium occurs in 2 atoms, that is 2. Carbon occurs in 1, that is 3. Oxygen occurs in 3. 3 plus 3, that will give us 6. So there are 6 atoms, 3 elements in this compound. So the simplest formula that shows the mole ratio of elements present in a given compound is called empirical formula. But the formula that shows the exact number of atoms present in a given compound is called molecular formula. So the correct option is the simplest formula of a compound, which shows the number of elements present in a compound. Whereas molecular formula is the formula that shows the exact number of atoms present in a compound. Exact number of atoms of the element present in a compound. I believe you learned a lot. Do remember to like, comment, and share. And follow Superstar School of Science for more chemistry lessons. Drop your questions, drop your answers to the assignments given in the comment section. We'll go through it. Of course, the person that has got all the answers correct will have a reward. You have a wonderful day.